So the book that I would rate 10 out of 10 is Hamlet, because one thing I like about the story is that how he goes through the struggle of his uncle marrying his mother, and she was down with it like quickly. And then the part I did not like is how they left that cliffhanger at the end where everybody dies and it's like, who runs the kingdom now, or stuff like that. But what stood out was that the more that he got into it, the more determined on his father's death he got it, until he finally found out what the truth was behind it. But the only thing that he wanted to find out was why he did it. That's what I thought that stood out.
The book that I read this year was To Kill a Mockingbird, and we read it in Mr. Ivy's class. And I would give this book like a 7 out of 10 because I think it's kind of started out slow and a lot of people would get like confused by it. But I think as it picked up, it became more interesting. I thought it was interesting at the end where Boo Radley saved the kids' lives, and I thought that was pretty cool. And it was a good example of what life was like back then in the 20s. So yeah.
A book that I read this year was To Kill a Mockingbird, and I would rate it a 10 out of 10. And the reason why I would rate it and why I love it so much, it's just how the story's built up and how it's slowly built up. And it just talks about like the life of back then in the 1920s.
Okay, so my favorite book was Handmaid's Tale. So I gave it an 8 out of 10. And I liked that the language conveyed emotion that was like, it was interesting and you hadn't heard emotion explained like that before, but it was still relatable to where you could actually feel it and it was impactful. So I think that made it stand out a lot for me.
Okay, the book I chose was Heart of Darkness. I really like that book. It kind of reminds me of Hitler in a little bit because Hitler, you know, used his words to inspire a lot of people, and that's what the book was. I read that book a solid 10 out of 10. What stood out to me is just the words and how Joseph Conrad was able to inspire people.